Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Happy Tuesday. I'm Jay Zawaski here with Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi. We've got a big and fun show ahead today. Before we get into that, make sure you smash that like button on our YouTube page. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page as well. If you're listening on your preferred podcast app, make sure you're following or subscribed there as well. And if you're feeling generous, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And remember, it's always a good day to become a CHGO diehard. You can do that at ALLCITY.com. You get a free shirt or hat upon sign up, and you get 20% off all merch at CHGO Locker and all CHGO events. It pays for itself in a matter of weeks. Jump on, become a diehard, allchgo.com. Today, we're going to wrap up what was left over from our Mailbag Monday show, because there were a ton, thanks to all of our new viewers and listeners and followers after the draft lottery on Monday. And speaking of the draft lottery on Monday, that's where we're going to start. We're going to welcome in Stephen Whyno of the AP. He was in the room when the lottery balls were drawn. So he's going to squash or confirm your conspiracy theory. Stephen, thanks for taking some time out today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. And we should mention, by the way, Stephen is my colleague at Triumph Books. You see my book there on the set. And Stephen is the author of Odd Man In, Hockey's Emergency Goalies, and the Wildest One-Day Job in Sports. It's a super fun read for hockey fans. Check that out via Triumph Books. Get it wherever fine books are sold. So take us into the room. It looked like very, when the NHL released the video, Gary Bettman's there holding up newspapers, and there's the lawyer there with
very hostage video, bit of a hostage video.
A little hostagey. The guy's got the very official ping pong ball nuclear bomb case. What was it like in that room?
It was weird and very nerdy and very much like you could respect the process. Like, this was a very by the book thing that they do every year. This wasn't just we're doing it special for Connor Bedard and all that, or they did special for Connor McDavid. Like, this is how it is done each time. With you've got the list that was printed out for us of the 14 1 through 14 combinations and kind of which team had each one of the combinations, so you could essentially follow along. It happens pretty quickly, but you could follow along with it and can every year. And literally to the point where there's a dude in the back who's not looking, who's yelling when to draw the ping pong balls out of the thing. It was a very official process that, like, I almost wonder if the league should do that on the air, but it's so nerdy and process oriented and all that sort of thing that only those of us who are really kind of geeky about this might enjoy it.
I think doing it live on air would be, well, I think the heightened intensity of revealing each number is great for TV, but I think to help everyone just feel like this is legitimately the process, this is how everything goes, doing the lottery balls and the drawing, have that being part of the broadcast, I think would be a great idea for the league. So what was it, once you were in the room, is it phones are locked, no outside communication? What was the time difference between doing the lottery and then the broadcast? Did they have you sequestered away? What was that experience for you as a witness?
It was crazy. It was like old school jury duty in a lot of ways, where we were just kind of waiting. There was a period of time where I'm talking getting there about 5:45 Eastern time, and they said, okay, we're about 6:30, 6:45, we're going to start doing this. And in about 6:30 or so, they come along and have these manila folders, and we each have to put our phones in the folder, write our name on it, and they take the phones away and put them over in the corner, and just to make sure that once everything happens, we cannot leak the results to anyone. And then it happens, and it happens very quickly. I mean, that happens, and you guys saw the video, the Bergen record being held up, the newspapers, the whole kind of here's every lottery ball, 1 to 14. There's no weights here. There's nothing stupid going on, and make it very clear. And then it happens, and you look over at the guy from Ernst & Young, well, it's the Chicago Blackhawks. Okay, we'll do it again. And it's the Anaheim Ducks, and it's over. and they update a spreadsheet, literally an updated spreadsheet on an Excel file of here's who's got the number 1 and 2 picks now, and that's it. And now it's like, here, go have a burger, go have a whatever. Like here's a bottle of water. Like we're stuck here, and that was about 7 o'clock or so Eastern. And then the show began at 8 o'clock Eastern. And Bill Daly, who's the one obviously pulling up the placards, was not in the room. Didn't want to know. Does not want to know what happened. And so Gary Bettman at whatever 7:57, he and his grandson go. We're going to go watch the show. He's the one guy who's allowed out of that physical room because who's he going to leak it to? I mean, it's that period of time where like in those 10 to 15 minutes, the interview with Connor Bedard, you kind of go through the entire process, and then we were handed our phones back after it was revealed that the Blackhawks had won the lottery. The Ducks were number 2. We had known that, and then we could tell the world.
Sitting there, you were one of 3 writers in there, along with Frank Saravalli, Aaron Portline. When you guys find out that it's the Blackhawks getting the number 1 pick, knowing that that's probably going to cause the most commotion out of all the possible outcomes, and probably outside of the city of Chicago, be the most unpopular of all the possible outcomes, did you guys kind of like side-eye each other going, oh boy, here we go?
There was a little bit of oh boy, and I think everybody at the league realized, oh, that's okay. This is people are going to think this, and it actually made me glad to have seen it in person. Not that I would have thought it's rigged anyway, because really, look, if the NHL could have rigged it, Connor McDavid wouldn't have ended up in the northernmost city in Alberta. Like, I'm not a conspiracy theory person about stuff like this, but having seen it physically happen in front of my eyes, and just how official the process is, it was amazing that like when you go by the combinations, like if it had shown up a 9 instead of an 8. I'm based in Washington. Connor Bedard was going to the Capitals. If it ended up as a 5, he's going to St. Louis. Like, it was crazy how close it was to having other random things happen. And it's kind of like sports in general, right? Like a shot goes in or goes out and it changes the course of history. Literally, the lottery ball popping up changed the course of history of sending Connor Bedard to Chicago. And yes, it probably is maybe the least popular, but also the best for the league. Philadelphia, Montreal, and Chicago, to me, being those of you want a big star in a big market, and this is what happened.
It's kind of funny. Hockey is the most random of all sports because things can change on the craziest, silliest plays that a franchise like the Blackhawks can change on one of the most random acts as well.
Well, hey,
fitting.
Like you said, like if the Hawks don't beat the Penguins in Game 82, Florida Panthers don't make the playoffs, let alone make it to the Eastern Conference Final. Like it's the butterfly effect. The most random little thing that seems meaningless at the time can alter the course of history, and that's what happened. And like you said, of course, as soon as the Hawks win it, the conspiracy theories are going to start flying because it is best for the league for this to happen. So I'd have to imagine, over your cheeseburgers and waters, Gary Bettman, if he was to stick around, would probably tell you off the record he's pretty thrilled about it. He has to be.
Yeah, and the league should be happy about it. I like that. It is a good bounce, but it wasn't like they orchestrated it to be that. Because as you guys pointed out, if they didn't have this extra win, or if the Ducks didn't lose 10 of their last 11 games, then there might have been a different combination anyway. And that's why how stupidly random this is to have this bounce go the way of this franchise that obviously we know the history was struggled and games weren't on TV and the kind of the situation with championships, and we know Kyle Beach and kind of the aftermath of the last 12, 13 years, that of course the Blackhawks are the center of a new thing around the NHL. For better or for worse, most of my career covering the NHL has been centered around the Chicago Blackhawks. So why not this too?
Well, it's
definitely for better.
It's for the better. Yeah.
For better this time for you guys, yeah.
Yeah, and I get why people are I understand the emotions about it. And a lot of the stuff we heard, and we heard a lot of it, was the Hawks should have been punished more severely for Kyle Beach. Sure. That's fine. But this notion that like the league gifted the Blackhawks Connor Bedard, that's not how it worked. That's not how it worked, and that's the primary reason, Steve, we wanted to have you on, was as you're in Washington, you have no bias to Chicago. There's no tie-in for you. The Hawks' success does not help you in any way, shape, or form, or hurt you really. And you were there. I think there's still a few people that are like, yeah, well, I don't care. It's still fake. It's still rigged. My thing is, what has the NHL shown you since Gary Bettman took over as commissioner that they are competent to rig something this complicated?
There was no frozen envelope situation here. No doubt about it. And I was even surprised how many people the day after or that night of in my Twitter mentions were just convinced it was rigged. I've had friends and people I know who've played in the league or whatever who really do think or have no people they know think it is rigged. And I was like, I can tell you, I watched it with my own eyes. There's no magic trick going on. There's nothing. There's no malfeasance going on here. It really was a bounce of a ping pong ball that sent Connor McDavid to Edmonton, that sent Austin Matthews to Toronto, that sent Connor Bedard to Chicago. And what now? Whether a ping pong ball should be deciding these things, whether there should be a draft, and where all the horse, those are bigger debates for another day. But I can say there is a fairness and a weirdness and a randomness to this process that exists.
Well, we know the draft order now up until the final 4 picks. The first 2, I think, off the board are pretty much set. We were having discussions yesterday and have had some discussions basically since last week, Monday, about what the Blackhawks can do with their second first-round pick. And the idea of trading up has been brought up to us a lot. We know that you cover the Washington Capitals as well. They have the 8th pick. What do you envision them doing with that 8th pick? Because that's kind of a range that maybe we're thinking 2 things. One, maybe the Blackhawks could finagle their way back into the top 10 with that second first-round pick. Or maybe if he falls, Matvei Michkov could be available in those picks too. So from a Capitals perspective, where do you see that 8th pick and that range of the draft going?
If Matvei Michkov is there at 8, the Capitals aren't passing him up. Like, I mean, we know the Capitals' history with this, dating really to George McPhee taking Evgeny Kuznetsov late in the first round several years ago, when everyone said, "Oh, we don't know what's going to happen with these guys from KHL and whether they come over and all that." And Michkov has a lot of those questions of if he's going to come over, when he's going to come over. That said, if the Blackhawks want him and he's sitting there at 5, 6, 7. It makes all the sense in the world to move up there, because even if you never see him in your life, even if he never plays a game for the Blackhawks, the risk reward there when you have Connor Bedard already from the first round of this draft, to me, is worth everything. And that's my colleague Jay Cohn and I have kind of discussed this as well. It's just, this is the draft. This is going to be the Connor Bedard draft. And even if you whiff with that other pick, then so be it. Like, you have Connor Bedard out of this draft, and you can afford to make other mistakes. But I think you can also afford to be aggressive. And beyond just the draft, it fascinates me what this is going to do to Kyle Davidson's plan moving forward. Of, do you use that second first round pick to try to get a player who can play with Connor Bedard? Do you kind of adjust your plan moving forward from even what you had in your own head, even though he said there's no timeline and this and that? Do you adjust your own expectations? But I think if a guy like that is available there, no organization has more leeway to be able to take that risk than Chicago.
It's interesting. I hadn't really thought of it that way. Of, you've already got the big chip, and we've talked about, would you trade if they get 2? Would you trade 2 and 19 and a bunch of other stuff to get 1? Yes. So why would you not trade some of that stuff to get up to 3 or 4 to get Michkov? That's interesting. I want to go back to the Capitals angle of that, and like, what kind of influence does Ovechkin have on getting players from Russia to the United States? Does he have more of an influence on those decision makers in Russia than your average NHL team?
I don't think so now. And I'm talking by now, I mean since the start of the war, and kind of just how geopolitics has gone crazy since then. I think his presence there makes a player more willing to come over and kind of buy into that, seeing the Capitals culture with Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Dmitry Orlov, even Alexander Semin over the years, and having kind of the ability to know these guys can succeed here. I think just the presence of Alex Ovechkin in the organization has a benefit. I don't think he's calling and lobbying Matvei Vichkov saying, come over here if we draft you, that sort of kind of active thing. But him being there and kind of being the face of the franchise and knowing it can work. Even they took Ivan Miroshchenko last year in the first round, a guy who is probably going to come over and play in Hershey in the American League next year. That was a risky pick too, given his health concern, kind of getting over a disease, honestly, and not knowing when he was going to play again. And so I think they were willing to take that risk. He is willing to kind of embrace and buy in to their plan because of the presence of Alex Ovechkin.
Speaking of Ovechkin and the Caps, we marveled this past season was our first full season together covering the Hawks, credentialed, and despite a pretty lousy actual on-ice season, we got to see some really amazing things, including that hat trick in the United Center for 800. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen as a fan or as a reporter. Just awesome. But it's kind of a weird situation where the Capitals are. First time in a long time, not in the playoffs. You have the Ovechkin record chasing for the next couple of seasons. Are the Capitals kind of just going to, go young and rely on that to be our marketing tool? Or are they going to try and quickly get back, not only to have Ovechkin break that record, but chase down another cup as well?
Yeah, the record probably more than a champion. And yes, everyone wants to win a championship, no doubt about that. But I think what ownership from Ted Leonsis down to general manager Brian McClellan, I think their job over the next 2 to 3 years is to keep this team contending at least. And are you going to make the playoffs by 2 points, miss the playoffs by 2 points, but at least be a good enough competitive team to help Alex Ovechkin break this record? I think that's the kind of MO for this franchise right now. Of course, would you love if they had gotten Connor Bedard? Yes, you would have said, great, let's load up and try to win a championship again and all those things. That didn't happen. I do think there's enough talent around this team and enough flexibility and kind of creativity on Brian McClellan's part to get this team back to being a playoff contender, a playoff team in the East for the next 2-3 years, and have enough talent around Alex Ovechkin to break this record. Because if you have a rebuild situation and not a whole lot of talent around him, other teams are going to be able to stop him and say, okay, everyone else beat me, right? And so I think that's the goal right now for the Capitals is be good enough. Yes, they would love to be a Stanley Cup contender again, but to be a playoff team again.
What's the cap situation for the Capitals next year? Are they pretty good financially, or are they going to have to make some moves to get under the cap?
So some moves are coming, and Anthony Mantha and the kind of albatross contract, or what turned into an albatross contract, has to get moved at some point. And whether that's a buyout or a trade, giving up an asset to get rid of him. There's the constant Evgeny Kuznetsov trade rumors now that he's got a big ticket on the salary cap, and the question of whether you can move him, who would want him, can you try to keep him and hope he has the even season, good bad season, good season, like kind of alternating, and hope for the best. But they did get rid of Dmitry Orlov by trade, Lars Eller, Marcus Johansson, a handful of guys who were part of some winning teams around there. So there's there are spaces for guys to come in, but this is where Brian McClellan has to prove he is one of the better general managers in hockey. Is you've got a limited amount of physical dollars with the salary cap not going up very much, and you have contracts you need to physically move or deal with to be able to kind of add the talent they think they need.
How would Ovechkin react to a Kuznetsov trade?
Like, yeah, reacts to everything else. He'll be fine. Alex Semin walked away in free agency a decade ago, and he went on and won a championship. I don't think it's going to be one of the things where he stands up and says, "Don't trade him," or "Do trade him." It's kind of Alex kind of goes about his own business with this team, and whether he's playing with Nicklas Backstrom or your old friend Dylan Strome or Evgeny Kuznetsov, he makes do with kind of the talent he's had around him, which has been a significant amount over the last 15, 16 years.
Well, I think the reason I ask is because, I mean, obviously the Hawks are, as you sort of have mentioned, now with Bedard, a little bit obligated to help him out a little bit and to bring in some talent. And I look at Kuznetsov, I look at Mantha, I look at even, not that I want Tom Wilson playing with Bedard, but he would certainly make the team better. I wonder what it would take. Let's just use Mantha as an example, right? The guy who's had huge expectations and has just not lived up to them throughout his career, obviously battled injury throughout. Would the Capitals give the Hawks some draft assets to take on that deal? Is that something like the Hawks did last year with Peter Mrazek?
Well, they would take the number 1 pick for Kuznetsov. I'll tell you that right now. I can tell you they would actually do that. I do see a scenario where I don't know if it's multiple draft picks, but to get rid of Anthony Mantha's contract, maybe it's a 4th-round pick and Anthony Mantha for future considerations sort of deal. He had fallen out of favor certainly with Peter Laviolette when he was coaching in Washington. There's going to be a new guy kind of pulling those strings and making those decisions. But Anthony Mantha and Jacob Vrana was a trade for each other. It worked out for neither team, Detroit or Washington, from a few years ago. And kind of, you could, if you're Kyle Davidson, you could talk yourself into Anthony Mantha as a change of scenery kind of player that you say, look, we're going to get an asset, a 4th, a 5th round pick, whatever, to take someone. And if it doesn't work out, he's only got 1 year left on the deal. You flip him the deadline if he's worth anything, and you kind of move on with your life. There are a handful of players around the league like that. I think you can consider even a guy like Max Domi coming back. So something along the lines of more kind of prove-it situation players. And the weird part is the Capitals are kind of in the market for the same sort of players they haven't had like that already to kind of fill in their bottom 9 forwards of guys who let's see what they have left in the tank. And these sort of reclamation projects that will suit someone like Connor Bedard well to have talent around him who might have something to prove.
You mentioned the Caps are in the market for a new coach. Quite a few teams will be looking for a new coach. Obviously, the allure of being able to coach one of the all-time greatest goal scorers and maybe soon to be the greatest all-time greatest goal scorer. What's kind of the news on that coaching front? I know a guy like Spencer Carberry is high on their list. If Toronto, whatever they're going to do, does that domino kind of fall? Are they looking for someone with a little more experience, even though they've tried that route with Peter Laviolette?
The nice part is that they're not in a rush, and I think the Blue Jackets are sort of in that sphere too, that Brian McClellan hasn't had to rush into anything, and he's gotten a chance to watch the first couple rounds of the playoffs and see how things go. I think that they do really like Spencer Carberry. There's no doubt about that. That's kind of the worst kept secret in hockey right now, but they're not the only team interested in Spencer Carberry. He interviewed with the Sharks last year when David Quinn got that job. If Sheldon Keefe is not back as the coach of the Maple Leafs, you could easily see Spencer Carberry getting promoted and coaching that team. If you're the Anaheim Ducks, you have to be interested. Same thing with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Even the Calgary Flames have to make a call. He is probably the next hot name. Jeff Halpern was the captain of the Capitals several years ago, has played with Alex Ovechkin and Nicholas Backstrom, as a local Washington area kid. His name is obviously out there in consideration, but you have to call a Gerard Gallant. If Sheldon Keefe is free, I imagine that's going to be a phone call too. The thing, it's choose your own adventure for the Capitals, because they had many times under George McPhee where it was first time coach, and it failed. Then you go out and get Barry Trotz and it works. Todd Reardon doesn't work. Peter Laviolette is somewhere in the middle there. That they have a wide swath of coaches potentially available to them. I just don't know how good a job it is. You get to coach Alex Ovechkin. There's the record chase, but it's probably a job that if you're a first-time head coach, you're probably going to be in it for 3 or 4 years, and it's not going to be your John Cooper level decade on the job sort of situation unless things go really, really, really well.
Well, Stephen, it was great. It flew by, that interview. Thanks so much for jumping on with us. We appreciate it. Reminder, everybody, check out Stephen's book, Odd Man In, Hockey's Emergency Goalies and the Wildest One-Day Job in Sports, from my friends at Triumph Books. You can get that anywhere books
I have
are
a
sold.
question for Stephen.
Oh.
So this is Lawrence, the producer. Hey, I'm wondering, do you get to keep the paper with all the lottery numbers? Did you have...
I do have those numbers. Yes.
I mean, if there's any chance you want to send those to us, I would absolutely love to have those.
I have my chicken scratch circled on everything there too. But if you, I'm keeping the manila envelope with my name on it. That's the one. That's my souvenir from that night.
Well, if you want to send those to us, I don't know, Jay.
Yeah, just scan us a photo and send it over.
God.
I just love to see it. It's
That's
cool.
got shadow box on our office wall.
Yeah.
4, 5, 9, 13.
You guys can frame that. Yes.
Yeah, I would love it.
All right, Stephen, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for jumping on. We love having you, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Absolutely. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Stephen.
All right, thanks, Stephen. That's Stephen Whyno from the AP. Follow him on Twitter at swhyno, WHY.
We see him in Nashville while we're all hanging out for the Connor Bedard show.
I think we will.
And then all those other picks.
I'm glad we got to do that. I think that the conspiracy stuff has died down a little bit, but I don't know.
Have other things to be mad about.
Yeah, right.
People are
The
always
news cycle's
outraged
moved
until the
on.
next thing comes
Right.
around for them to get outraged.
Yeah,
about.
yeah. But that was really good. Speaking of really good, tomorrow we're going to talk to the Blackhawks Director of Amateur Scouting, Mike Donahue. Tomorrow at 2, he'll join us right at the top of the show. He is a great guest, a wonderful speaker, and he's going to kind of tell you what it's like preparing for the draft, how it's changed over the years. I'm really looking forward to that interview. So 2 o'clock tomorrow, Mike Donahue, the Blackhawks chief scout of amateurs, which is the amateurs are the guys being drafted.
Yeah.
So that's important.
That should be a lot. And then we have our buddy Craig Morgan from PHNX on Thursday.
Yes, and for
Big
those who
day
don't
for
know,
the Coyotes.
yes, a huge day for the Coyotes. The vote is happening as we speak. There should be results around 8 p.m. whether or not Tempe is going to approve an arena for the Coyotes. If it does not get approved, the Coyotes are probably looking for a new market. And I'm not saying Scottsdale or Phoenix or Glendale. I'm saying Houston,
Kansas
City, or
Salt Lake
Hamilton or
City.
something like
Yeah,
that. Yes.
Potentially, yeah.
So
Quebec City.
big night for the Coyotes. And look, because we know them, we're rooting for our friends at PHNX, and let's hope the vote goes in their favor because good people put a lot of work into that, and hopefully it turns out. And look, it'd be great if the Coyotes could get some stability so they can start running their franchise like an actual freaking franchise.
Yeah.
I tweeted Craig's story today about just the entire history of their arena stuff. And when you read that and understand it, which I hadn't until I read through it today, it's perfectly understandable why they've been so crippled in terms of running an organization, paying their players, all the sort of things that they've had to do to just survive. Deals that were at the finish line that didn't go through for arenas. It's been a disaster. Let's hope, fingers crossed, everything goes well for the Coyotes tonight.
Yep. And yeah, I know we take our shots and people do at the Coyotes, but their fan base in Arizona is very dedicated. There's a lot of great Coyotes fans that want to, obviously want to see their team stay in that area. So yeah, hopefully it goes well, and we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And while they're waiting on those results, well, they have their own beer sponsor in Phoenix. If you're in Chicago,
Drone beer, Phoenix.
if you're in Chicago and waiting on those results, or if you just want to go outside and crack a beer on your patio or on your deck or at the park, in a little paper bag, do it with Goose Island because they have gooses flying over our heads. They have been Chicago's beer since 1988, and they are the proud beer company of us here at CHGO. Whether it's the Goose IPA, the 6-time medal winner at the Great American Beer Fest, which is always in style with a citrus aroma and bold hop finish, or the Full Pocket Pills, the everyday beer, what the beer brewers are drinking, or the Tropical Beer Hug, the Dry Hopped Imperial IPA, which is a 9.9 ABV that's dangerously easy to drink, or the 312, the staple of their beer roster in the golden can. Whatever it is that you decide to crack open and enjoy, do it responsibly and do it with Goose Island. You can, of course, grab an ultra-fresh brewery-exclusive beer at the Goose Island Original Brewhouse located on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Again, that is the Goose Island Beer Company. I think when I get home tonight, I'm going to crack one open on my back patio and enjoy the sunshine.
By the way, any beer can be an everyday beer if you try hard enough.
If you really want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even have to try
But
that
especially Goose Island.
It's not that hard, man.
hard. No, it's not. Hey, speaking of sitting outside and enjoying the sunshine and an ice cold Goose Island, you want to protect
not
those
there.
eyeballs of yours because they are important. You do need those.
You're gonna have to have two. Well, you're gonna have to have working eyeballs, to enjoy Connor Bedard.
Yes, it will help.
The
It will
most.
definitely help. You want to see all 9,000 goals he's going to score. So you can take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather and the glorious sunshine ahead with premium polarized shades at a very affordable price. And they're going to get even more affordable. Spoiler alert. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class product just as good, I think even better than any expensive pair I've ever worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for your outdoor adventures. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on the very first day, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair. 0 questions asked. You can wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. And together with their customers, that's you, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to help non-profit partners across the United States through Shady Rays Impact. They're doing everything from building play sets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime. Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it for now and years to come. And if you don't love your Shady Rays, but you will, but just in case you don't,
You will.
but you will.
You will.
You can exchange for a brand new pair or return them for absolutely free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And also, they have the best deal of the season just for our wonderful, beautiful, lovely CHGO listeners. Go to ShadyRays.com. Put 2 or more pairs of their awesome sunglasses in your cart. And when you get to checkout, use CHGO and in the promo code, and you're going to get 50% off your order for 2 or more pairs of Polaroid sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
For the record, I don't want Anthony Mantha on the Blackhawks.
I really don't either.
It was just an exercise in conversation.
Yeah, not high on the list.
No, not the guy at Target, but depending on what is used to sweeten the pot.
Yeah.
If you get more plus,
If you're going to give a first,
right? Well, they're not going to give you. They're
Doesn't
not
seem
giving
like
you the
that's
number
gonna be
8
the
overall
case,
pick.
yeah.
That's not happening. But if you get, say, they're maybe one of their top 3 prospects, like somebody that can actually be a useful NHL player down the road in short order, like you can get there.
what about this Ludwig person?
Sure,
I love that name.
Isn't that a
Ludwig person?
Ludwig person.
Was he the goalie?
He is a center wing.
Oh, I'm
like
thinking of
center
somebody
wings.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get their version of like Lucas Reichel,
And the coolest name in hockey, Hendrix Lapierre.
That's a good one.
that's a good one.
And he had a. Was he the one that hit the fan in the queue?
No, that was the shit. Thank you.
Yeah, that was good.
Thanks.
I don't have a sound.
Yeah.
I don't have a sound effect for
There
it.
you go. That was good. Anyways,
The shit.
yeah. There's.
I believe it's Mert. Mert is French for shit.
Merde.
Mert.
Merd?
Merde.
Yeah, Mert.
Merd.
Merde.
That's pretty close to Italian too. Anyways, what were we talking about?
I
I don't
have no
remember.
idea.
Not getting Anthony Mantha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he's not the
He is
guy
Merd.
I would take, but you know what? The Hawks have the options to be.
Yep. Options
you
are
know,
open.
They're going to be the first team people that have those types of things call. Again, so nice to be on the other side of that,
Isn't it?
For how many years was the Hawks have to dump this guy in order to
Teuvo
pay this guy?
Teravainen to get rid of Brian Bickle.
Yeah, like, and that's far from the only case either. I mean,
Yep.
so many guys had to leave in order to keep the core together. Now we get to benefit the other side. Let's get somebody else's Teuvo Teravainen to take on their Brian Bickle.
That
I'm all
sounds
for it.
Outstanding.
I'm all for it.
I'm down for that for sure. By the way, as we were discussing, Steven said the Hawks are really in the catbird seat, having number 1. They can kind of take a risk with number 2. Our buddy Lebowski5 made a good point. It's up a little bit. Sorry, I had to drop that on you really quickly. Yeah, so Lebowski says he disagrees with Steven's assessment, says that the Blackhawks did not get Bedard, then I'd be more inclined to draft Michkov because they need a blue-chip cornerstone. Now that they have number 1, they need to fill out the foundation with more certainty. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you are confident that Michkov is coming, and look, this is the pre-draft work that every team in the league is doing on Michkov right now.
Right.
Who's the last guy that didn't come over? Of that profile, right? Like, there have been guys who have decided to stay, but they've not been of the Michkov, Malkin. Right.
Powers
But those
is best buddy.
premier Russians,
They
because that
always
was a
come.
concern with Ovechkin, it was a concern with Malkin.
Yeah.
Kaprizov, right? Like,
What Kaprizov drops. Talk
Who was,
about a kid
who was
that
the guy
dropped.
a few years ago? Podkolzin? He came over.
Yeah, he's with the
Canucks, right? Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Canucks.
So
they all the top I don't see a scenario outside of like more crazy Russian foul play where Michkov isn't in the NHL. I really don't.
Eventually, yeah.
The allure of the not living in Russia and making money and not having to like, you know, get called to go serve in the military at the drop of a hat and not living in Russia.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody living in Russia right now, but seriously, living in any city in the United States is going to be an upgrade.
Except
from
St. Louis.
Fair. I'll allow it. But still, like the money and the stardom and just the Western world, you know, it's. I don't see a scenario where he doesn't come.
Alex Ovechkin seems to be having a really hard time here.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, right.
constantly miserable.
Yeah.
Always got a frown on
Never
his face.
never body
goes
surfing
out-
through
never
a fountain.
never goes out in public and acts like a frat boy. No, it's just no. He's yeah. I don't see any scenario where he doesn't come. I know concern. They're legit.
Yeah.
But eventually he gets here
Yeah.
and he's going to be a really good hockey
I
player.
think
Like
it's,
that.
I think it's the timeline that people are concerned about. Like it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is. So
And with Connor Bedard, the Blackhawks have nothing but time to wait.
yeah. So even you're saying like, oh, you can take a more sure thing, but at 19, you're probably getting a guy who's still 2-3 years away, anyways. So why not try and roll the dice to get up ahead of a team or in a position where if he's falling in the draft that you could go and get him and wait those 2-3 years and get a player of his caliber rather than a later first round caliber.
And here's the great part. And if Kyle Davidson's listening, I know you are. I know you are, Kyle. Next time you're on, sit more centered. If you draft Michkov and he's 4 years away, theoretically, okay? Bedard's new contract has begun, and you're adding that dude
At league minimum.
for 3 years. Or the rookie, whatever, the 900 and-
rookie,
Yeah. $1 million
Yeah.
bucks.
900
Yeah,
$1 million bucks a year for 3 years with Bedard, who is probably at that point entering his prime. He'll be 21
one.
at that point. He'll have 4 years of hockey under his belt. Then and with the idea with Michkov is he's not going to come to the United States and then need years to develop. He's going to come ready to go, like Kaprizov, like Panarin. You know what I mean? Like he arrives ready.
And he wouldn't have to come here and be the savior or the guy.
Exactly.
Right.
No, so much less
You're not-
pressure
you're
on
not-
him.
So
You're not
instead of
hoping-
saying we need to sign free agent X to play with Connor
Instead of
Bedard,
giving $13 million to Leon Draisaitl, here's Mahe Michkov for $1 million. I mean, you're telling me so he's going to win the Calder and the Conn Smythe in the same season? Is that what you're all but confirmed?
yes,
Okay,
He
cool.
could.
I like it.
yeah.
Why not?
So I mean, but think about it, like that the money part and the contract part, which we know is top of mind for Davidson. He's gone through every possible scenario, and another reason why he's sort of saying like we can't make all these picks this year is because you can't have a bunch of guys come and do contracts at the same time.
Yeah.
Like you just can't.
Can I tell you how big of a nerd boner I have that we have a general manager that actually thinks about that stuff?
It's great.
That
Yeah.
where he's already thinking 4 years ahead of himself. Like it's so freaking refreshing and that just gives me confidence that if this rebuild works, and it's certainly on the right path to success, that the second part of the rebuild is sustained success. And with Kyle Davidson thinking years ahead of time, it makes me confident that the sustained success could be accomplished as well.
Everything all right?
Yeah.
Is
Oh,
someone
yeah,
in
it
our
looks like
window?
it's snowing out. It's weird. Like there's a bunch of stuff flying around. I didn't know if it was just.
Well,
this
Mario,
window.
that is probably some
Dandelion
flowers
dust.
or
Asbestos.
the little helicopter seeds.
I know
pods.
my neighborhood is infested with dandelions. 1 yard had them
Yeah.
like 2 weeks ago. Now the entire city of Wilmette is one big dandelion.
giant
my,
dandelions.
My yard definitely has dandelions.
Yeah.
No,
All right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I was
derail
I was
it.
concerned.
I was just.
I thought maybe someone was peeping into
Well,
a
it's
window.
just like
or
there's
something.
like all this stuff coming down, and I'm like, we're pretty high up. There's no trees above us. I don't know. Confusing.
I don't know.
But anyway, I know it's
all
not
right. We've
snowing.
got some leftover questions for Mailbag Monday. Again, we appreciate everybody getting those messages in, and we want to make sure we respect you and answer the questions. So let's rifle through. I think we got 4 left. That's probably just enough to get through the show.
Hey.
So I know that Law has them all ready to go.
Yeah,
do you want to read them, Law, like Joey did yesterday?
Sure. Well, let's do it.
Are you going to identify him correctly?
I called Joey Steven yesterday. Then I called him Sarah. Then I called him Natalie. Then Clark.
Yeah, we had some.
Kevin, Lawrence. He was Lawrence at one point. We went through everybody.
Okay, well, let's just. Is there any order? You don't care about any order?
Go for it.
Go for it.
All right,
Shoot
we'll
from the hip, my friend.
Okay, let's start with Korchinski will save us.
Surprising who
With
this
an unbiased question.
Who this question is about.
Do you guys see Korchinski making the team this year or going back to juniors?
Is this Ian Mitchell's burner account?
Can I say both? I think Kevin Korchinski is going to start the season here and then go back to junior. I think he's going to play his 7 to 9 or whatever and then go back.
That sounds.
I could
reasonable.
see them doing that. I personally would just say have a really great training camp, have a really good preseason, and then go back to junior. While it would be good to see like what he could do in the NHL at this point, I'm fine with not really throwing him in there just yet. I'm fine with him taking another year to develop, to grow, to mature. I think that would only do him well. So yeah, it's probably going to be, at the end of the day, it's probably going to be he gets a taste of the NHL and then heads back to junior.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. Give him this 6, 7, 8, 9 games, whatever, beginning of the year. Send him back to juniors, unless you just physically can't because he's just so good. Let him dictate that. But you've got plenty of defensemen.
Yeah.
Going back to the WHL, it may not be so like. You can argue that playing against NHL talent is better for his overall development than going back and playing against teenagers. But yeah, you also don't want to.
He's still a teenager too,
right? You don't want to kill any kind of mojo he has going on. So yeah, he'll be here for training camp. He's going to get an extended look in preseason. He'll play. If there's 6 preseason games, bet you he plays at least 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Give him, if he's earned it. If he looks completely lost in training camp, well, then your decision's made. You go right back to WHL.
Well,
if he looks great, let him play the first handful of games and then make your decision. You know.
And I think what we saw with Lucas Reichel last year is that Kyle Davidson's not afraid to say, "Hey, you're playing really well. Good job. Head on back down.
Go do that in Seattle."
I don't think there's any notion that, Kyle Davidson is just like, "Oh, he's too good." I think he's got no qualms about sending a good player back if they can.
Real quick, kind of going back to our Michkov conversation, Young Dangle mentioned Seth Jones's contract and how it's going to be a problem for the last 4 or 5 years. Remember that as the years go on, the cap goes up, and that $9.5 million
it's not going to hurt
in
as
4 or
much.
5 years is not going to look as bad as it does right now.
No.
And also, it becomes movable at that point. If he's willing to go.
Yeah.
Right now,
4 years at 9.5 is much easier to swallow if he's performing at a high level.
Exactly. And of course, there's always those teams willing to take on those big high deals if guys want to call it a career. I think Seth Jones will play for the length of that contract.
Yeah, he's still only 28.
And remember, like I said, $9.5 million 4 or 5 years from now is not going to look as bad as it does today.
Everybody freaked out with the Duncan Keith deal.
$6 million.
Not even.
Not even.
And it was a bargain by the end of it.
Yeah.
Everybody freaked out of the Corey Crawford $6 million.
Yeah.
And it was a bargain by the end of that deal. I'm not saying $9.5 million for a defense was going to be a bargain, but it's not.
Fine.
It's not going to be the stressor that everybody thinks it's going to be.
And he improved from 2 seasons ago to last year.
Oh, yeah.
So not to say that he's going to improve back to the Norris caliber player that he was previously in his career, but I think under Luke Richardson, we've seen an improvement. And if he can play at a level where you're like, you're not cringing that he's your highest paid defenseman or that he's your number 1 defenseman, he can play that role. So if he's playing near the value of the contract, that's fine.
And as the team gets better and some of these defensive prospects start getting here and hitting their potential, hopefully, I think a Seth Jones not thinking he has to do everything on the ice is a better Seth Jones.
Yeah, you can take some off his plate.
He could excel at what he does best instead of worrying about, I got to cover for everybody else on the ice because this is a bunch of suck asses out here.
Right.
That won't have to he won't have to do that as much. So I know it's a hot topic. It's going to be a hot topic, but guys, stop worrying about the gosh darn salary cap.
Yeah, we got time for that. Don't worry. Let's enjoy this.
We
for
haven't
now.
even drafted Connor Bedard yet, and everybody is worried about the price of his next contract. Live in the now, people.
Live in the now.
Enjoy what we have.
Yeah.
Relax. The salary cap headaches will get here eventually. We don't have to worry about it right now. And I have faith that this current regime will handle those headaches much better than the last one
Yes.
did. So let's enjoy basking in the 98 glory while we can.
Well, and they have $41 million that they have to
the cap
spend.
is not a concern
to
for
get to the
at least
cap,
4 years.
To get to the cap floor. Why are we caring about $9.5 million with Seth
Exactly.
Jones? Because
He's
they still have so much
That
that
contract
they have
is
space
actually
for.
helping this team immensely right,
Right.
By the way,
right.
for all the people who are like, bring back Kaner to show Bedard how to win, Seth Jones in 2013 was the 4th overall pick and jumped to the NHL right away and played a major role for the Nashville Predators as a rookie. He came in and played 72 games as a rookie. How about that for Connor Bedard? Say, hey, Seth, you were a guy who came in, drafted, made the jump to the NHL right away. What's that like? What should I do? There's your mentor. There's
Yeah,
the mentorship you're looking for.
Yeah, there's plenty of guys that
77 games, sorry. Not
even
72.
better. There are going to be guys in that locker room that can help, acclimate Bedard to the life of the NHL that don't need to also be Patrick freaking Kane and be the owner of that locker room. Like,
Anyway,
I want to stop talking about this because literally the guy who makes the decision says we're not going to be discussing this anymore because we're not doing it.
yeah,
Right.
it's over. All right.
There are plenty of mentors already in that locker room.
Yes.
I really don't want to get to a point where I hate having to think and talk about Patrick Kane
I'm long past
because
that
of whole, I understand, but like Jesus, like can we just
The GM just
like
said it.
he
I'm with
literally
Liam.
said we're done
We
with
can listen to Liam.
moving on here.
Why do you guys even address the salary cap and bring back Kane comments and questions still? You don't have to pay attention to
Because
the
when people make those comments, they owe us $1. So I want
I brought the Kane thing up
Honor my
because of
dollar.
the Seth Jones. If people want a guy who can show Connor Bedard the ropes and teach him what it's like to be a rookie out of the draft, he's here.
Right.
The guy's here. You don't need another one.
Liam is now co-executive producer, and I'm on board.
Also,
I'm on board.
Connor Bedard takes some of the spotlight off of Seth Jones,
absolutely,
which will help Seth Jones.
probably
This is the Connor
a lot.
Bedard ripple effect that is impacting the entire organization from the players on the ice to the freaking, I don't know, the guy who serves the nachos. Everybody
'Cause he's
wins
gonna-
because
he's
of
gonna be
Connor
a lot-
Bedard.
He's going to be serving up a lot more nachos.
That's right.
The beer vendors are going to be making a lot more money.
Yes.
At the United
They're
Center.
going to need to make sure that all the concessions are stocked this year.
Yes.
All right. Anyway, all right, let's go. Sorry.
Okay, we're back to
We're back.
Mailbag Monday.
We're back.
On a
On
Tuesday.
a Tuesday.
We're back.
Okay.
See, I love that bit. No one knows that bit. All right, thank you for connecting with me on that.
Wait a minute.
This one is from Peter J.
Peter.
I'm assuming it's
Peter
Peter
J.
J.
Peter J. Peter
81.
Johnson. 81.
Great avatar.
Peter Johnson.
He's got the Bill Daly holding up the Blackhawks logo, which is amazing. And he asks us a question here. He says, Vancouver doesn't have a second-round pick in the next 2 drafts. Do you see Chicago trying to move up from number 19 to number 11, and what would it take? And then he gives us an idea. Perhaps Tampa Bay's 2023 first, that's the 19th overall. Ottawa's 2023 second, that's the 44th overall. Vancouver's 2024 second, which is to be determined, for Vancouver's 2023 first, which is the number 11 pick. Thoughts?
That's not a bad idea.
That seems about right.
Mm-hmm.
That seems about right.
Yeah, two valuable second-round picks and then an 8-pick difference in the first round.
Give him back that pick they gave us to take Jason Dickinson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it'll be Jason Dickinson and the 11th overall pick for Riley Stillman.
I also wonder too, like,
There
Nice.
you go. There's
Nice.
a trade tree.
yeah, we've talked about it a little bit too, the Connor Garland Brock Besser thing. where Vancouver needs to move out some salaries too. You can sort of implement that into a deal too. I mean, again, this is we'll talk about it tomorrow with Mike Donaghy. Like, having all this draft capital and all these assets, they can do anything they want.
While it would be fun to make all those picks and have all these young guys to get excited about, there's also some value to those picks in the here and now.
Yeah.
So
And it also gives you the opportunity, if you do make the picks, to look at a guy like Isaac Phillips, for example, who the league says, oh, good young player, big, strong, athletic, can move the puck, can shoot. That becomes a trade. Like, everything now is on the table because of the way Kyle Davidson has set this stuff up.
yeah.
They are, no one in the NHL is in better shape to do whatever the hell they want with their roster than the Blackhawks.
It seems that way.
One team that I think is going to be active on draft day is going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs. Not only because they
have a lot of-
but they
Bring
only
back
have
McCabe.
one pick in the first 4 rounds. They've got Boston's first round pick,
Which is
because of
going to
that
be
28th. Because of all that crazy Eric Gustafson, Dmitry Orlov thing, they got Boston's first round pick. They have no second round picks. They have no third round picks. They have no fourth round picks. So they get the 28th overall pick, and then they sit there for 4 rounds. That's a team that
they
is going to
need
be
some
looking
help.
to acquire some draft capital. Not saying that, hey, that means William Nylander is getting traded to the Blackhawks. Just saying, that's a team that would be on the lookout for trying to acquire some picks. The Blackhawks have a bunch of extra picks. The Kyles have made up. If the
Seemingly so.
If second best Kyle is still in
Yeah,
Toronto,
right.
I mean, we don't know that
He's got to
yet.
talk to his family first.
But
yeah.
it's starting to sound like he's going to stay there, which I think is hilarious. That Brendan Shanahan and
Yeah.
Kyle Dubas are all going to keep their jobs, and Sheldon Keefe is going to keep his job, and it's like, what are we doing?
There's
here?
no
But
way that they can completely run it back. They can't.
From what
I mean, they could.
They could.
But they can't, right?
But I mean, something's got to change. I mean, you got to change that team. You got to change that team.
Yeah.
You can bring in all the GM. The GM won't help change the team, but you got to get that core. Chronic underachievers that fold under the pressure. So
And
change
there's a lot of pressure.
Change that out. I don't know how you do that though. Those are guys that are
fresh eyes, fresh perspective.
Trade Jake McCabe to the Blackhawks for a 3rd round pick.
Sure, I'll take him back. I'd be just fine.
Yeah, maybe he didn't sell his condo yet.
There you go.
Yeah, probably
All
not.
right, we got 2 more.
2
right.
more.
We do. This one is from Junior Kane 88. Should the Hawks look to add guys like Kirby Dach last year, a young, struggling, high pick, needs a new start? For example, Alex Turcotte.
Well, I'll say what we've been saying for the last week. It's great that the options are open.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some players out there like that that maybe just got buried in an organization or for whatever reason haven't panned out with the team that originally drafted them. Turcotte is one of them. I know every single person on Twitter believes that Alexis Lafreniere is going somewhere else besides New York, and people in Chicago love to bring up him. I don't think that that's going to be the case. But yeah, I mean, there are options out there that the Blackhawks could look at. I'm just not certain if any of them are like, bullseyes to be like, that's the perfect player to come in here.
Yeah, just like the salary cap, just because you have the money doesn't mean you should spend it all.
Right.
Just because you have the flexibility to make a bunch of trades doesn't mean you should do it just to trade. Find the guy that fits your mold. Find the guy you believe is going to be a difference maker, and go get him. If that guy's not there, don't do anything.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of young players that are going to be coming up in the next year to 2. So I think Davidson probably has a belief in his own guys already. So if, like you said, if there's not a guy there that you want to take a swing at, you don't have to.
And Alexei Lafreniere in the chat again. He's one of these guys. He's not. I don't think the Rangers are trading him because guess what? They're going to have a new coach, and you can guarantee that the guy that they're going to bring in to take over for Gerard Gallant, his main objective is going to get Alexis
Get the most
Lafreniere
out of
to
your
look
young
like a
players.
number 1 overall
Yep.
pick. The Rangers don't have the. I know the fans see it and say, "Oh, that's the guy they want to trade." Rangers don't want to trade him, and they're going to switch out head coaches to get more out of him.
I mean, look, that's probably one of the reasons Gallant was fired.
Yeah,
Was because of how he deployed Lafreniere and to a lesser extent Kako, and those guys have not developed. So bring in someone who can. But I'm seeing Mike Babcock's name out there tied to the
Well, and
Rangers.
Hey, if you
that
want to,
would
if you want
be-
your young players to develop, bring a guy who's stuck in his ways in the pre-2015s.
And you know
Take a
me and
look-
my affinity for the Rangers. I would love that.
Oh my god! But like, take a look. Like, it's
Can-
not like
can the
how
NHL
many
get
Luke
away?
Richardsons are there in hockey?
Yeah,
Luke Richardson still checks the boxes for what most NHL coaches are: former player, white. You know,
previous coaching experience.
Yeah, like he
Well,
checks all the boxes.
Here's the thing.
Just find a new one.
And this is part of the reason why I hate New York teams so much. It's New York. They got it.
It has to be a headliner.
You've got to get a big name. You've got to get someone to put on the marquee. You can't settle for the new hot up and coming coach. You need to get the draw. And
Who goes to a game to see the coach?
not I.
I don't know.
Nobody.
Not me, but that just going out and getting the big name coach proves to your fan base you're trying. But
The NHL needs to collectively get away from just hiring the same 30 guys for the same 30 jobs.
that argument's been made for 50 years.
Jesus,
Like,
Yeah.
I think this is a
Peter
topic
Laviolette
for
is such a good example.
This is a topic for another day, but I think you'll start seeing that when the next, hopefully, commissioner gets in charge. I think a lot of that,
whenever that happens,
when you get a new set of eyes on the entire league, who's not focused
the
on...
league has
on-
needed a new set of eyes for a while.
Absolutely. But sounds like great August content
Yeah.
discussions.
Sure does.
All
We'll
right,
take a
let's,
Bedard break in August.
Let's wrap up Mailbag Monday on a
Yep.
Tuesday with this from Let's Go Hawks. Will Nolan Allen be playing with the Blackhawks at the start of next season?
Probably not.
No, I wouldn't think so.
He's going to start the year in Rockford, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. He's going to be playing more minutes than he would if he came to Chicago. And yeah, like all of these young players will need time to adjust to the pro game and adjust physically. And I think Nolan Allen, he's a bigger kid, plays a more physical style. To do that at the professional level, you're going to need to be physically ready to do that. It's different doing it against guys who are grown ass men compared to your own age players. So that'll have to take some time to translate. But yeah, he'll go to Rockford. I think he'll do just fine.
The difference there is Korchinski can't go to Rockford.
Right.
It is
Yeah,
NHL
no.
or juniors. So
Yeah,
that's
based on birthdays and
if he could go to Rockford, he would go to Rockford.
Yeah. Nolan Allen, Ethan Del Mastro, top pairing for the Ice Hogs. Sounds good to me.
Sure.
Who do you think of that group is going to be the first full-time NHLer?
Of like
Del Mastro, Allen.
Korchinski.
I guess we could throw Vlasic into that.
Well, I think
Well, if
I
it's
think
gonna be
I think Vlasic's a full-time NHLer next
I
year.
don't know. Maybe.
I think he is.
I would hope so.
Remove Vlasic
So take him
from
out. Del Mastro or Allen.
DeMastro, Allen, and Korchinski, who's
Yeah.
the first full-time, probably still Korchinski.
Probably still Korchinski.
But not this season, next season.
Yeah.
Next season he's
And
full,
hey,
and then
it might be all three of them at the same time if things go well.
Yeah.
I
Who
hope
knows?
so. That would be
that'd be a lot
fantastic.
of fun to watch. Speaking of the Ice Hogs defensive group, Del Mastro, Allen, maybe Regula and Phillips as your top, like potentially your top four.
Wyatt Kaiser.
Wyatt Kaiser maybe in that group, but like those four as like regular defensemen, talk about a meat grinder of a defense to
Good
have
luck
to get
crashing
through.
the net in
Yeah.
Rockford.
Woof.
Some big
Physical
big
players.
beefy men slapping beef.
Big meaty men slapping meat.
That's what it is. Meat. That. I got my quotes wrong. I had a beef sleeve on the mind.
Yeah.
You know what else is on my mind? It's the ComEd Energy Efficiency
Always.
Program. It
Always.
is. I'm
It is
always
ever
thinking
present.
about Monergy. Monergy.
have
What
to.
is Monergy, you ask?
My mind on my
it is
Monergy.
money and energy. And ComEd Energy Efficiency is committed to helping families and businesses they serve save both money and energy now and into the future.
That is correct, Greg. ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across their territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities, like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
How does that work?
Well, as I've told you dozens of times, Greg,
I'm hard-headed.
an authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. If you own a business, don't wait. Get started saving money and energy, Monergy, today. For energy-saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to comed.com/poweringbiz.
Say, was that ComEd.com/poweringbiz? One of these days I'll get it.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Schedule it
B-I-Z.
today. All right. Well, that's it for the show. Reminder that
amazing.
tomorrow at 2, Mike Donahue will join the show. He is the Blackhawks Director of Amateur Scouting to take us behind the scenes of all the draft prep. He will not mention specific names. That is against the rules, my friends. But you'll know who he's talking about. Wink, wink. Should be a lot of fun. Good guest. And then Thursday, we'll welcome our friend Craig Morgan from PHNX Coyotes to wrap up what happened with the arena vote and to talk some crap about the Blackhawks because he's been chomping at the bit to do so since they rigged the draft in their favor. Craig doesn't believe that, for the record, but it should be fun.
Yeah.
So make sure you join us. We'll be here Monday through Friday, 2 o'clock. Remember, we're presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Thanks to Lawrence for running the show. For Greg and for Mario, I'm Jay. This has been the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast.